Most people believe obedience only happens when someone forces you to do something. They imagine obedience as strict rules, commands, or obvious control. But the truth is much more unsettling than that. Real obedience rarely begins with force. It begins with training. And that training often happens so quietly that the person being trained never notices it. Think about the way habits form in everyday life. At first you make a small choice. Then you repeat that choice a few more times. Eventually the behavior becomes automatic. Psychological training works in a similar way, except instead of you training yourself, the environment around you slowly shapes your behavior. Someone reacts positively when you behave in a certain way. Someone reacts negatively when you behave differently. Over time, your brain begins adjusting your behavior to avoid discomfort and gain approval. At first, the changes are small. You might avoid expressing a certain opinion. You might choose silence instead of disagreement. You might adjust your behavior just to keep the atmosphere calm. But when these small adjustments repeat again and again, something important begins to change. Your behavior slowly adapts to the reactions of the people around you, and eventually you may start following patterns that you never consciously chose. That is the strange thing about psychological conditioning. It doesn't feel like control. It feels like normal interaction. Human beings are deeply influenced by social feedback. From childhood, we learn how to behave by observing reactions from the people around us. Approval feels rewarding. Disapproval feels uncomfortable. Our brain quickly learns which behaviors create positive reactions and which behaviors create tension. In healthy environments, this learning process helps people cooperate and build strong relationships. Supportive feedback encourages growth and confidence. But in unhealthy environments, the same psychological mechanism can slowly train people into obedience. Instead of open communication, certain reactions begin shaping behavior. Silence after disagreement, sarcasm when someone expresses ambition, withdrawal of attention when someone acts independently. These reactions may seem small in isolation, but when they repeat over time, they create a pattern. The brain begins learning something simple. Certain behaviors create comfort, while other behaviors create discomfort. Eventually, people start avoiding the behaviors that lead to discomfort. And when that happens repeatedly, the result is obedience. Imagine a workplace where one person regularly shares ideas during meetings. The first time they speak, someone dismisses the idea quickly. The second time they speak, a colleague interrupts before they finish explaining. The third time they speak, someone laughs lightly and changes the topic. None of these moments look like obvious control, but after several experiences like this, that person may begin speaking less during meetings. Eventually, they may stop sharing ideas entirely. The training did not involve commands. It involved reactions. Now imagine a different situation in a personal relationship. One partner expresses disagreement during a conversation. Instead of discussing the issue calmly, the other person becomes distant or silent for the rest of the evening. The message is not spoken directly, but it becomes clear over time. Disagreement leads to emotional distance. Eventually, the partner may begin avoiding disagreement altogether. Again, the behavior changed not because someone was forced, but because emotional reactions train the response. Another example appears in friendships. A person shares an ambitious goal they are excited about. Instead of encouragement, their friend responds with sarcasm or doubt. "Are you sure you can actually do that?" At first, the comment might seem like harmless teasing, but repeated reactions like this can slowly weaken the person's willingness to share ideas. Eventually, they may stop talking about their goals around that friend. The pattern repeats in many environments: workplaces, relationships, families, and social groups. Small reactions become signals. Signals become patterns. Patterns become training. Before we go deeper into this, take a moment to think about your own experiences. Have you ever noticed how your behavior changes depending on the people you are around? Maybe you feel confident and expressive in one environment, but quiet and cautious in another. If that sounds familiar, then you have already experienced how powerful social conditioning can be. And if this topic is helping you understand something new about human behavior, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps the channel grow and allows us to continue exploring these psychological patterns in future videos. People who shape the behavior of others often rely on a few subtle patterns. These patterns do not look like control, but they gradually influence how others behave. One common tactic is approval conditioning. Positive reactions appear when someone behaves in a desired way. Compliments, attention, or friendliness reinforce that behavior. Over time, the brain begins associating that behavior with reward. Another tactic is emotional withdrawal. When someone behaves differently from what is expected, the reaction changes. The person may become distant, quiet, or dismissive. This creates emotional discomfort, which the brain tries to avoid. A third tactic involves social pressure. Instead of directly criticizing someone, the person may compare them with others. Most people would handle this differently. The comparison suggests that the individual is outside the group norm. Human beings naturally want to belong, so they often adjust behavior to reduce that pressure. These patterns appear simple, but they can be extremely powerful when repeated over time. The brain is designed to learn from patterns. Every experience provides information about what leads to positive or negative outcomes. When the brain notices that certain behaviors lead to approval and others lead to discomfort, it begins adjusting automatically. This learning process happens below conscious awareness most of the time. You may not realize that your behavior is changing because the adjustment feels natural. You might think you simply became quieter, more cautious, or more agreeable, but often those changes reflect how the brain adapted to repeated social feedback. This is why obedience training can happen without commands. The environment provides signals and the brain adapts. Over time, those adaptations become habits, and habits shape behavior. The turning point begins when you start noticing these patterns. Instead of automatically adjusting behavior, you begin observing the reactions around you. You ask yourself simple questions. Does this person encourage open conversation, or do they shut it down when opinions differ? Do certain reactions appear whenever I express independence? Do I feel more confident after interacting with this person, or less? These questions shift your perspective. You begin recognizing the difference between healthy feedback and subtle conditioning. Healthy feedback challenges ideas while still respecting the person. Conditioning reactions, on the other hand, often discourage independence. Once you recognize the pattern, the influence weakens. Because the brain no longer treats the reactions as automatic signals. Understanding social conditioning does not mean assuming that everyone is trying to control you. Many people behave in certain ways without realizing the effect they have on others. But awareness gives you the ability to protect your independence. You can notice patterns instead of absorbing them automatically. You can evaluate feedback based on whether it helps you grow or simply pressures you to conform. And you can choose environments that encourage confidence rather than obedience. Healthy relationships do not require someone to silence their thoughts or suppress their ambitions. They encourage expression, discussion, and growth. The idea that someone could slowly train your behavior without you noticing may sound unsettling at first. But the purpose of understanding this pattern is not to create suspicion. It is to create awareness. When you recognize how social reactions shape behavior, you gain the ability to protect your mindset. You begin noticing which environments strengthen your confidence and which environments quietly weaken it. And once you see those patterns clearly, you regain control over how you respond to them. Because obedience that comes from unconscious conditioning is very different from cooperation that comes from conscious choice. Awareness is what makes that difference possible. If this video helped you see human behavior from a new perspective, consider liking the video and subscribing for more insights into manipulation, psychology, and human behavior. And I would like to ask you something. Have you ever noticed a situation where your behavior changed because of the reactions of people around you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience might help someone else recognize the same pattern in their own life.